With the recent disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz that's affecting everyone globally, how can we, or based on your expertise, how can we establish a maritime security framework that satisfies global economic needs without requiring a permanent U.S. military blockade?
This would be negotiated and agreed with within one of the principles which I introduced in the introduction. I said we need a new security cooperation system in the Persian Gulf about military, security, political, economic, all issues. Definitely, this would have to include the maritime security, the healthy export of energy, giving international community guarantee that the energy from the Persian Gulf safely would be exported, which would be in the interest of Iran and all Arab countries in the region. And this would include also the security stability in the Persian Gulf. The US is going to withdraw anyway, sooner or later. And that's why the 8 countries around the Persian Gulf, within this collective cooperation security system, they will have to establish a task force between 8 countries to maintain security and stability in this region, including Strait of Hormuz.
So, do you think that would need like a external party to monitor these collaboration between all the Persian countries, or do you think it would be possible for them to um, be neutral about that?
Well, actually, if there is going to be an agreement between the world powers and the 8 countries around the Persian Gulf on establishing a new security, collective security and cooperation system in the Persian Gulf, this mechanism should be led by the dialogue or negotiation on this mechanism should be based on a UN resolution. Already, we have Resolution 598 about Iran Iraq ceasefire. Article 8 has given a mandate to Secretary General of United Nations to negotiate with the 8 countries for creation of such a system. Already we have it, but this is not limited to a new resolution. Then the Secretary General should have mandate to have this regional forum to negotiate between 8 countries with the presence of the 5 big powers. It is a matter of international peace and security. Definitely, United Nations Security Council should be involved, and the conclusion, the mechanism, the structure should be adopted by a UN resolution supervised by United Nations during the implementation.
If we move to the economic reality, um, these sanctions um, that are existing right now have severely crippled the Iranian economy. But historically, they have not triggered capitulation. In your experience, what does a realistic and conditional sanctions relief timeline actually look like in exchange for regional stability?
I have been saying during past at least 2 decades in hundreds of articles in my books that military strike regime change strategy is not going to work, is not going to lead to Iranian capitulation. Nevertheless, President Trump started the maximum pressure policy, and during 2016, 2020, it failed. Recently, they had 2 attacks on Iran, Israel, the US, the most powerful army during the history of mankind. and the objective was a total collapse of Iran, regime change, and as the director of energy of White House in an interview with Fox News said, he said the main goal was to control Iranian oil reserve like Venezuela. And I mean, they have tried everything in this manner. Now they understand both attacks failed, and the assessment strategy to bring a total collapse to Iran, because Iranian nation, they are not satisfied with the government. They will rise against the government, and the US will win Iran. This was some, I mean, illusion they had. Nevertheless, they tried. They tried. The fact is that majority of Iranian people, they are not satisfied with the governing system. Majority, they are fed up with the economic problem, corruption, inflation, unemployment, too many domestic issues. Nevertheless, Iranians during the history of thousand years of history, they have proven when they are attacked, they will be united to defend their country integrity and identity. It doesn't matter whether they are happy with a government inside Iran or not. For them, the country would be first. That's why I think now Washington and Israelis, Netanyahu especially, they have understand that they have a good understanding. If they are going to go to third war, they are not going to get a better result compared to the first two war. But about the sanctions you mentioned, definitely Iran has been damaged, I would say trillions of dollars during past decades. It is not hundreds of billions of dollars. This is trillions of dollars. And if they want to claim with sanctions they have been able to damage Iran, definitely they have been able. No doubt about it. Trillions of dollars Iranians, they have been damaged. But if their objective is to dominate Iran, if their objective is to disintegrate Iran, if their objective is to bring a regime change and to put a puppet like what they did 1953 coup, it's not going to happen. That's why with the proposal I made at the beginning, when they agree on the nuclear related sanctions would be relieved, would be removed. And then they would go to the regional issues. When they go to regional issues, an ocean of other sanctions could be removed. That's why it needs a phased approach, negotiation, step by step in different issues to try to make a priority. First, if the priority is nuclear, no problem, they can agree on the nuclear. Then, if the existence of Israel for them is important, then, as I said, if the US Arab allies are important, this would be the third issue. If the security of Persian Gulf energy would be important, this would be the fourth issue. And every issue agreed, the US will have to lift the sanctions. Then we will be able to have a normal relation between Iran, the US, Iran, and the West, Iran and the Arab allies, and hostilities, I mean, existential threat, at least between Iran and Israel, would be ended.
You touched basis on something really important, at least for us at Pledge for Peace. Is I mean, uh, the people are the ones that are suffering the most because economically speaking, this is affecting Iran economy, and civilians are the ones suffering. Do we know, or in your experience, do we know what exactly are Iranians asking for here? Because they're the ones facing these issues.
Iran is not only rich in civilization and history, they are one of the richest countries from resources, oil, gas, minerals. They have extremely important geographic strategic location. And definitely Iranian nations, they deserve a better life. Now the inflation is 40, 50, 60, 70%. Unemployment, I mean poverty, corruption. It is not something secret. Every Iranian officials, they have been uh, discussing about dysfunctionality of the system, and they have been asking, even the current officials, they are asking about an effective governing system. They have confessed many times this dysfunctionality. They are publicly revealing the big corruptions, hundreds of billions, which we have never had during the history of Iran. I mean, these are all in Iranian papers. That's why definitely, if there is going to be an agreement between Iran and the US, if there is going to be a peace between Iran and the regional allies, definitely, simultaneously, and even more important, we will need a functional system. And this will need a major reforms inside Iran. These reforms is not to happen through war or sanction or regime change. These should happen within the system, and the current establishment should decide after 40 years to go for major reforms.
What is your perspective on maybe finding a way where we can separate the political leverage from the humanitarian necessity and ensure that the civilian populations are protected and not weaponized during these diplomatic standoffs?
We need to be realistic. The key decision makers on the current crisis are the US and Israel.
Mhm.
And we have seen the model of Gaza, and we have seen the humanitarian costs. About 100,000 people, they were killed or injured. Gaza was destroyed totally. 2.5 million people displaced. And what was the US or Israel or the international community decision caring about the humanitarian consequences of poor Palestinians? Nothing, nothing. Therefore, the reality is that the US and Israel, they really do not care. And that's why they don't care if Iranian nations, they are suffering about the sanctions. And you have seen in American politicians' statements many, many times, they said we have, and they continue to say, we are imposing, or we have imposed the sanctions to put pressures on Iranian people to bring a regime change inside them. Therefore, this is targeted. I mean, they have confessed they are targeting the nations. How we can give a suggestion? Please take care of the people.
But do you think that if frameworks are in place, would it be possible?
If there is going to be agreement, definitely a sanction relief would be part of this agreement. Then when we have sanction relief, then the import of good medicine, agriculture, even the Iranian oil export, everything should be and could be normalized. Then this will have a major impact on the life of Iranian nation.
Mainly is the sanctions right now that is affecting the most
Yeah.
the Iranians. Okay, we have one question here, and it goes back to uh, I think the roles of other nations here. Um, Reza said China and Russia role here. What is their objective? So I guess they want to know what is the objective of China and Russia in this situation.
China and Russia, they have beyond Iran, they have a bigger objective because they believe in multilateral mechanism, not unilateral. They are not going to accept the unilateral US controlling the international community or dollar or economy or military or security. Uh, Iran is part of the issue. Persian Gulf is part of the issue. Middle East is part of the issue. They have the rivalries in Latin America, in Africa, even in Europe, and in Ukraine and Central Asia, Caucasus. This rivalry is going everywhere. Definitely, China and Russia, they do not want the US to be successful to bring a regime collapse in Iran. China and Russia, definitely, they are against the war. They are against regime change in Iran. They are against disintegration of Iran. They are against the US policy of pressure, capitulation, or controlling the oil reserves of Iran or even the energy in the Persian Gulf. That's why they are trying to help Iran as much as they can. They have limits because of international sanctions, and they are not going to confront the US because of Iran. That's why they are playing somehow in between to the best extent they can. They want to support Iran, but they have many limits to go. I mean, for strategic support of Iran, like military, like providing airplanes or sophisticated military equipments.
Is Iran becoming kind of like a battlefield between US and Russia and China? And even if this is going to be solved and resolved with an agreement, would this create a permanent stability, or would other battlefields would keep on coming up, and this issue, which we are seeing right now, would keep on happening again in different regions, different parts of the world? So, is from Pledge for Peace perspective, to create permanent stability in the world, should the issue be limited to just Iran, or should it be that why US and the other world powers don't come to one agenda, where the wars throughout the world, for example, Ukraine and Iran and all these, they all can be resolved, and hopefully our future generations can live peacefully? We would like to, hear your perspective on that.
If Israel would accept to respect United Nations Security Council resolutions, 8 years, over 400 resolutions insisting on two-state solution. If they're going to respect, and if the US is serious to implement the UN resolutions, then we would have peace between Israel and Palestinians. Then Arab-Israeli problem would be ended. Then if the US is ready to accept such a regional cooperation system between Iran and the US Arab allies in the Persian Gulf, then Iran and Arab conflict would be ended. But I think everything depends to the US. It is not about Iran.
What can be done at this point, where rather than just like keep on accusing or keep on saying that, okay, this group is doing this, we can find a solution where not only that this can be stopped, but in future, any other religion, any other country, any other group who try to do the same thing when the might is right again, we can stop them from doing it. Any idea, any solutions which come in your mind as an intellectual and having so much knowledge about the history and the current situation?
If you are talking about our situation, the contemporary history, if you are looking for a solution, after the Second World War, the new world order has been established. And the US practically laid the foundation of a new world order. In this order, There is a United Nations established. There is a UN Security Council as the highest body internationally deciding about peace, security, right? The world powers, the five permanent members, are playing the key role about the decision making in UN Security Council resolutions, right? And you can see the the world powers, they are killing their own resolution. Iran nuclear was created, agreed mainly because Iran-US negotiated. All six powers, they agreed, they signed. It was adopted a UN resolution. Then in the new world order, you have International Atomic Energy Agency as police for nuclear issue in this world, right? And the International Atomic Energy Agency adopted the JCPOA. It was in full implementation by Iran for 3-4 years with zero failure. And then you see the US killed the deal. The US killed the UN resolution, which created by himself, but by itself. The US destroyed all IAEA resolutions, and two nuclear powers, they attacked Iran, a non-nuclear weapon state, its nuclear facility under safeguard. And even the United Nations Security Council and the IAEA did not issue a simple statement condemning attacking the nuclear facilities. A clear violation of all international laws created by the world powers, specifically by the US. And then another example is International Court of Justice, right? ICJ. You are talking about justice. You remember the decision on Gaza, right? And you remember how the US and Israel condemned ICJ for such a decision. And they put them as a terrorist list. And they sanctioned the judges. Therefore, I mean, this is the reality. Either we should go back to the rule of jungle. Everybody has power, can kill, can invade, can attack the weaker one, or we should respect the world order created by the US after the Second World War, which the cornerstones of our international organization, international rules and regulations. Tell me, out of 400 resolutions, 8 years on Israeli Palestinians, which one has been implemented, respected by the US and Israel? Therefore, if you're asking me about the solution is there. Even if it is not maybe a complete, perfect, ideal solution, but this is the base. International rules, regulations, United Nations, ICJ, UN resolutions, and international conventions, NPT, chemical weapons, biological weapons, all international conventions we have.
We know that when it comes to the big five powers, they are sitting together in the UN, but in reality, the games are being played all over the world. The game to control the currency, the game to control the region, the games to control the oil and power and all that. And this is where I think our efforts are to see how we can create something which everyone can obey. So few of the solutions and ideas our members and our Pledge for Peace does provide a way for everyone to be able to propose solutions. And one of the solution which I saw was very interesting, that if we can force all the powers, all the nations to UN to come to an agreement that no more the regions, or the games of acquiring more land or changing the borders and increasing your country size and all that. If we can go ahead and we all can agree on that the borders are permanent as of a particular date, so at least that can be resolved. This whole of the idea of greater Turkey or greater Israel or greater whoever is the powerful nation at that time, should be stopped for the future to be. It is just like equivalent of saying that Pennsylvania all of a sudden says that I want some more space from New Jersey. No, if you are under one system, you would not be saying those kind of things if it is decided that it is not on the table. And the second thing is that when there is a justice between the states, just like we were able to create. If we look at the size of the U.S., U.S. is a huge country, and it has shown to the world that states as diverse as Texas to California, to New York, to Washington, they all can live together if there is a rule of law. The only issue is that we unfortunately have not come to the point where this rule of law can be created for the world, and we can implement that. So that's what Pledge of Peace is trying to do. Do you think it is an impossible objective? It is something we are wasting our time, or you think there is a possibility and we should carry on our efforts?
Actually, Reza, you made a good statement as a conclusion. I fully agree. If I was supposed to make a conclusion statement, I would have said exactly what you said. Whether this is realistic, whether we are wasting our time or not, this is beyond our power and decision. What we can do, we can try our best. Exactly what Pledge for Peace is doing, the other NGOs, everybody in every capacity should do everything to bring the international community fully committed to international law, order, conventions, regulations. And this is the only way to go. And I may add, because the issue is about Iran and the US, may add just one more sentence as conclusion. The fact is, Iran and the US neither can continue the type of relations past 47 years in hostility, war, conflict, and nor they can go back to a type of relation before revolution during the Shah, when the US had the full domination of Iran. Neither a status quo of before revolution nor the status quo of 47 years. That's why the solution is to for Iran and the US to agree on rapprochement, reviving the diplomatic relation based on the status quo of after revolution and before hostage taking. This period, they didn't have ideal relation, but they had diplomatic relations. There was no sanction. They had trade. I mean, everything was for the two nations was open. They were traveling, although they had their own differences. That's why, to add one more comment on Iran and the US as a conclusion and as the way forward, I thought it's important to mention how we can revive the relation based on which status quo.
And thank you, Professor Seyed, for being here today. I know that you have a busy schedule, so I'll let you go now.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
to be with all you. Thank you very much. I wish a good weekend for all of you. Thank you very much.
So if you have your phone on hand or you're on your desktop, you can go to pledge4peace.org/campaign. And there are already solutions that exist there that you can vote on. But if you feel like after this discussion today, you have a solution to propose, you are more than welcome to also propose that solution. You can also scan the QR code with your phone, and it'll take you right to that campaign as well. So it's very simple. There is not a lot that you have to do. It only takes probably less than 1 minute to go to our website, and you create an account. And right after you create the account, you are able to vote on this solution. All these votes count towards a mandate that we are working into delivering to the UN, the US State Department, and as well the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So if you could please participate, trust me that your participation will be counted. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your weekend.